It's not Republican, it's not Democrat. Honestly, it's not liberal, it's not conservative, it's not left-wing, it's economics. If you tax people who work and you pay people who don't work, don't be surprised if you get a lot of people not working.
Hi, I'm Tim Cavanaugh for Reason TV. We're here at the Orange County Register offices with the legendary Arthur Laffer, the founder of Supply Side Economics, the namesake of the Laffer Curve, and most recently the author of Eureka, How to Fix California. Dr. Laffer, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Tim.
What's the one takeaway we need to do to fix California?
Well, it's common sense. I mean, you can't tax a state into prosperity. I know that sounds radical here, but you can't. You need a low-rate flat tax. You need all sorts of other reforms that this goes through on water. You need reforms on electricity. You need reforms on electing officials. I mean, one of my suggestions would be you probably should have merit pay for politicians. Put them on commission. They should have skin in the game when they do all this voting. They don't bear the consequences of their own actions, and it should be a right-to-work state. I mean, right-to-work states way outperform non-right-to-work states, and welfare. I mean, all of these things should be done because, in all honesty, the best form of welfare is still a good, high-paying job, and it really is.
Yeah, I think it would surprise people the degree to which unions have sort of captured California politics.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Can you describe that a little?
Well, I'll give you one example. I mean, California classroom teachers are the highest paid in the nation, and they are. I mean, the year I do it in that book is New Jersey's number 2, about $400 higher than New Jersey, and they're the number 1. And yet the Department of Education test scores for 4th grade and 8th grade in math and English, California is the second lowest state in the nation. I mean, which really irritated me, frankly, because after spending all that money in the classroom teachers, they should at least have been able to beat Louisiana and be the lowest in the nation, but they couldn't even do that. But this is the problem. Every single teacher in California cares about his or her students. They really do. They're wonderful people. It's the system that doesn't allow that to manifest itself. It's tragic.
You do a lot of the familiar comparison of California with Texas, which are similar in size, demographics, type of economy, and so forth. What are the key differences?
Well, it's tax structure. It's all sorts of spending structure. It's the type of government. I mean, they have a part-time government. We don't. But I mean, I compare California with Texas. I do Tennessee with Kentucky. You look at New Hampshire versus Vermont. You look at all of these, Florida versus New York. But I also get all of the repository of data of the last 50, 60 years of 50 states. I mean, virtually everything that can be done has been done. And what I try to do is, in a straightforward, clear way, look at how the results have been. I mean, what happened when states lower their income tax rates? What happens when they raise them? I mean, we had 11 states put in the income tax in the last 50 years. What's been the result? Well, all those states are worse off today than they were when they put in the income tax. I mean, really, it's terrible.
The income tax is extremely progressive. It's
the
extremely
most progressive
tilted.
In the nation,
right.
The single most.
And
you're trying to make it more progressive.
Right. I think in his heart, Jerry Brown has to know that leads to more volatility in collections.
Totally. He knows that totally. He's an extremely smart man who is really well-focused and well-oriented towards what incentives do. If you tax people who work and you pay people who don't work, don't be surprised if you get a lot of people not working.
Right.
And that's just what California has done. It's driven people out of the state. I think Jerry Brown's great. And I think Jerry Brown has the potential inside him to do the right thing. And he knows what the right thing is to do. That low-rate flat tax, the unions are a real problem. He knows that. He knows you can't live on unfunded liabilities, the retired policemen, firemen, nurses, prison guards, all of that. Come on, who doesn't know that?
Now, when we talk about sort of Laffer curve type of issue where a tax increase will actually lead to flat or even lower revenue raised, how does that work out practically? Is it that the rich figure out, they hire more accountants and figure out more ways to make their income disappear?
If you saw my piece in the Wall Street Journal on Warren Buffett just a couple of weeks ago, yeah, of course he has all of his wealth in unrealized capital gains. What's the tax rate on unrealized capital gains? 0. If he gives it all to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, his son's foundation, his daughter's foundation, it'll never see a tax. That's not what we want people to do. We want people to pay their taxes fair and square and not worry about the tax dodges, loopholes, and all that. Now, he's perfectly legal what he does, but it's wrong. He should pay his fair share. If you calculate Warren Buffett's income correctly, in 2010, he paid 0.06% in taxes. $7 million was his total tax bill for a total increase in wealth and spent gifts of $11.5 billion. Tell me about that.
You know, Ronald Reagan certainly gets all of the credit as the supply side president and so forth.
He deserves it.
And yet, well, John F. Kennedy, in some ways that are forgotten by history, was actually an early avatar of this idea.
Totally. The Kennedys have always been the most positive, except for Teddy, were the most positive pro-growth supply side presidents and politicians ever. I mean, Joe Kennedy as a congressman was phenomenally good. But Bobby Kennedy, his proposals before he was shot were perfect. They were all of Reagan's proposals. Jack Kennedy really created the phenomenal growth of the 60s, the go-go 60s, before he was shot. And Bill Clinton was a damn good president too, if I may say so. I mean, he pushed NAFTA through Congress against his own party and the unions, got rid of the retirement test on Social Security, signed into law welfare reform, reappointed Reagan's Fed chairman twice, cut government spending as a share of GDP by the largest amount of any president ever, and had the biggest capital gains tax rate reduction. Now, he did it in partnership with Newt Gingrich and the Republicans in the House, but you know, presidents deserve credit for that, and he does.
Now, so far you've praised Jerry Brown, the Kennedys, and Bill Clinton, and yet you're still publishing the Wall Street Journal. How does that happen?
Well, they did too, by the way. I mean, I'm not the only one, but I've also praised Ronald Reagan pretty much. Bob Taft, Harding, Coolidge. You know, everyone thinks that. And the Republicans have been bad on some of the ones. Bob Dole voted against cutting the highest tax rate from 91% to 70% because we couldn't afford the revenue losses. Barry Goldwater led all the Republicans to oppose Kennedy's tax rate cuts on corporations from 52 to 46%. They forced him to compromise at 48%. Yikes! So it's not Republican, it's not Democrat. Honestly, it's not liberal, it's not conservative, it's not left-wing, it's economics. It's straightforward, common sense incentive economics.
This is Arthur Laffer. You don't interrupt this man when he's talking.
Oh, Lafferty all the way, you know.